Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. And today we will be continuing the chapter 2 Theory of Consumer Behavior of Class 12 Microeconomics. In the last video, we talked about, we started this chapter and we studied about the behavior of the individual consumer. We saw the two different approaches that explain this consumer behavior. One is the cardinal utility analysis, and second is the ordinal utility analysis. Then we talked about the cardinal utility analysis, where we understand that where it is assumed that the level of utility can be expressed in numbers. And with this assumption, with this simplified assumption, we are able to calculate the total utility in the numbers and marginal utility. And due to that, there is a law of diminishing marginal utility, which states that marginal utility from consuming each additional unit of commodity declines as its consumption increases, while keeping the consumption of other commodities constant. Right. So then we also saw about the ordinal utility analysis, where we which is which is more realistic in nature as compared to the cardinal utility analysis, because it talks about that if the consumer can rank various consumption bundles. It doesn't measure utility numbers, rather it can rank consumption bundles, and that is the basis of the ordinal utility analysis. And based on this, we calculate, we understand, we draw an indifference curve. We understand that what is the indifference curve, and we also saw that why the indifference curve slopes downwards. The reason is because of the marginal rate of substitution, that how many like quantity of a good is need to forego in order to have one more unit of another commodity, right? Now, then they talked about the law of diminishing marginal rate of substitution, and also we talked about the indifference curve for different commodities. And then let's start today in this video. We'll talk about the indifference map. We also talk about monotonic preferences, and then we see different properties of indifference curve, right? So let's start with this. Let's start with this video. So hope you can see my video, my screen. So yes, let's start with the monotonic preferences. Okay, I'll just change the color of it. Now, monotonic preferences. What are monotonic preferences? The monotonic preferences are basically if there are two consumption bundles, right? So one consumption bundle which says X1 and Y1, and there is another consumption bundle which is X2, Y2. So if any of the consumption bundle, like if any of the goods in a consumption bundle, let's say B, if X2 is greater than X1, and okay, let's say Y2 is same, quantity of Y commodity is same in both the bundles, or if X2 is equal to X when the quantity of commodity X is same. However, the quantity of Y2 is greater than Y1. In this case, the consumer will prefer consumption bundles B than A, because he or she is getting more of one good in more of one good with no less quantity of other good. Correct? Just to give you an example, with the help of an example, other good. Just to help with you with an example, if x1 is, let's say, 5, x2 is 10, and y1 is, let's say, 11, and y2 is also 5, 10, and y2 is also, y2 is same as x1, x2. Okay, so this is basically y1, sorry, and y2 is 11, right? So this is a case of this first case, and this is the second case. I'm talking about first case, right? So in this case, the consumption bundle, this will be preferred over the above consumption bundles, correct? Now, now, these are basically this kind of preferences are known as monotonic preferences. Okay. Now comes the another concept, which is indifference map, right? So this is also a very interesting topic, indifference map. Indifference map is basically this is IC1, this is IC2, this is IC3, this is IC4, and this is X unit commodity, this is Y. Now, here, okay, I'll just change this to this PPT. Use this line. Okay, so basically, I'll just change it. Make this curves later on. IC1, right? Now this IC1 indifference curve, any consumption bundle on this curve will be giving the same level of utility, correct? So basically utility of A is equals to utility of B, which is equals to utility of C, and which is equals to utility of D. However, if there is a, let's say if I draw 1 unit of X and let's say 10 units of Y, now let's say, and in case of B, 2 units of X and 8 units of Y. So this, both the bundles are giving me same level of utility. This is what an indifference curve is. However, let's say we have 2 units of X and 10 units of Y, right? So I'll just change this so that I can, okay, this is A basically. Okay, now if I want 2 units of X and Y units of Y, 10 units of Y, so I will be not in a, I will not get the same level of utility. Rather, I would get more utility. That is because of the monotonic preferences that we have discussed, that we have understood just in the previous slide, right? That means in this case, and it provides it comes above this bundle comes above this curve, and due to that, utility of utility if IC2, that basically comes on another indifference curve. We can draw another indifference curve, at which all the bundles that correspond to that lie on this indifference curve will give the same level of utility. However, the utility will be different, or maybe I would say which is will be higher than the utility that is given over here. So utility of IC2 is greater than utility given in IC1. Okay. Okay. Now, similarly, if I move to the next indifference curve, that is provides us 4 levels of x, 4 units of x, and 10 units of y. This will provide me higher level of utility than what is given than what is being like I receive in case of IC2. So in that case, utility from IC3 is higher than utility from IC2, or which is greater than utility from IC1. All right. Now, if I draw a line over here, this shows that the curve will go from left to right, and this curve will go from left to right. And this shows that as we go from one indifference curve to the next indifference curve, from left to right, the level of utility increases, right? The utility level increases. This shows that this is shown by this arrow. All right. Now, this is what is being mentioned over here. So that is basically the indifference curve map is all about. Basically, it is a set of indifference curves wherein the higher indifference curves, where the bundles on the higher indifference curve, bundles on the higher indifference curves are preferred over bundles on lower indifference curve. All right. Now comes the features of indifference curve. Indifference curve slopes from left to right. Slopes from left to right. It is a downward sloping indifference curve. Downward sloping indifference curve. Okay, that is what we know about indifference curve. That yes, it is from left to right and it slopes downward from left to right. Okay, so here is downward. Okay. Why? Because if I have to increase the quantity of one good, let's say y, x quantity of x, I need to forego some unit of, let's say I have this 10 units of y and 1 unit of x. If I have to increase one other unit of x, then I have to forego some units of y so that my level of utility remains the same. So that is why we have this indifference curve sloping from left to right. All right. So basically, now if I increase this level to 3, now it comes to 6. A, B, C. The utility of A is equal to utility of B. That is, we know, okay, that is not required over here. However, if I increase the delta x1, in that case, it comes with the minus delta y2. Okay. This is a change. That is why we have this slope of the indifference curve as let's say if it's delta x, okay, I'll just change it. it. All right. So basically, if delta x1 is greater than 0, then delta y1 must be less than 0. Right. So that is what if so that is what that is why the indifference curve is downward sloping. All right. Mhm. Now comes the next feature of indifference curve. The next feature of indifference curve is that higher indifference curves gives greater level of utility. That is what we have understood earlier also. Higher indifference curve gives higher levels of utility. Higher levels of utility. Why so? Because as we know, if we move from one indifference curve to another indifference curve, from left to right, we are getting higher levels. So utility we see over here. Let's say it is B dash and it is B, or it is A and it is A dash. So the utility that I derive from U A dash is greater than utility derived from A. Similarly, utility derived from B dash, consumption bundle, is higher than utility derived from B. So that is why the indifference curve, higher indifference curve gives us higher level of utility. Now, what is the next feature of indifference curve? It is that also, let's see how indifference is here. Now, we have discussed about indifference curves sloping from left to right. And if we move from one indifference curve to another, okay, I'll draw another. I see 3. Then so that is because of the monotonic preferences assumption that we have taken. Due to that. Now, the third feature of the indifference curve is that indifference curves never intersect with each other. Indifference curves never intersect each other. That means I see, for example, if I draw one indifference curve like this, we cannot have another indifference curve which crosses the previous indifference curve. No. Why? Let's understand. So basically, any bundle, any consumption bundle which lies over here, it says x1 comma y1. Now, if I, let's say, draw another, let's say I draw over here another indifference curve. If I draw another indifference curve over here, which is IC1 and IC2. Now, let's understand that this is, we have x1, this is y1. And now, if I draw another consumption bundle, let's say I draw here, right? Utility of A, which lies, the consumption bundle A, which lies in both the indifference curve, has the same level of utility, right? The same, like if let's say I'll just mention this is U. The utility derived from A is U. Or let's say, okay, I'll mention over here, U as only. And now I'll take another consumption bundles, which is B, C. So if I get a utility derived from B is equal to utility derived from B as how will I derive this? Utility derived from B is uh, one second, y2, x2. Okay, now, so the utility that I get from A must be same as the utility derived from C, but utility A must be equal to utility of C. And also, utility derived from A is also has to be equal to utility derived from B because the A point that the consumption bundle lies in both the indifference curve. But if we see the consumption bundle here of uh, consumption bundle, the C bundle, here the X1, or I would say it's not X1, this is basically X3 and this is X2. Okay. And this is Y2. Okay. The X3 is comma Y2, and I'm just comparing these two bundles, X3 and comma Y2 and X2 comma Y2. Okay. Now X3 is greater than X2, correct? And Y2 is same in both the bundles. So how can utility derived from this consumption bundle and this bundle, sorry, this bundle and this bundle can be same? In this case, utility derived from B has to be greater than utility derived from C, correct? So this defines this assumption, or I would say that this is something which is which is a contradiction because if, on the one hand we are saying that utility from A is same as utility of B and utility derived from A is equal to utility of C. So if from this, or I would say from these two equations, we get utility derived from B is utility derived from C. But here we are getting a contradiction that utility derived from B is greater than utility derived from C. So in that case, um, one second. So sorry, like the slide went like it got closed by accidentally. Since there's some technical glitch. So we were discussing about that the two indifference curves can never intersect each other, right? Why? Because the indifference curves, these two indifference curves, one is providing IC1, other is IC2, and then we have this because these consumption bundles, let's say B and C, they are both provide the utility derived from B is higher than C. However, utility derived from A and C are same, and utility derived from A and B also same. So this is a contradiction that we see if we two indifference curves intersect, right? So that's all for this video. In this next video, we will talk about the budget line, the constraint that the consumer faces while he or she is purchasing any good, right? So thank you so much. That's all for today, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.